it true you liked your brother's 14-year-old friend?
Yeah, but I used to have a crush on him.
That Auress? Like AuressCosplays? The one who's in a relationship with her dad?
Why do you always have to bring my parents into it?
Anyone who is in the community and knows anything about the cosplay community already knows who I'm talking about.
This is AuressCosplay.
I was the Chris Chan of cosplay for years, which I'm actually very embarrassed about.
One more time. What did you just say? I'm in love with my dad.
You don't know my situation.
Anything I say, you blackmail me for disagreeing with you.
We view minors in a different way compared to how Japanese people view minors.
Someone who literally in an audio clip said that they were attracted to like a 14-year-old minor.
I feel like there's like a gray area.
He came in my room with me.
You know that in Japan, they view 13-year-olds as adults.
I have a lot to say about this person.
He's absolutely insane.
I don't really want to question the Japanese.
Do you think that you're the victim in this situation?
Yeah. Oh, well, not 100%.
It is currently 6:30 a.m. because I had a lot of trouble sleeping last night. So in this video, I'm going to be addressing something very serious then.
Goodbye.
Cosplay. A hobby and way of life, both treated with love and respect by those who participate in the joy that is realizing your favorite characters to life in a welcoming and communal setting. From wildly popular meetups at anime conventions held across the globe, to viral sensations on social media who share their craft with millions online through photo ops, humorous skits, and other various displays that represent the joy that such a diverse hobby can bring, cosplaying is truly an artistic marvel. Whether your cosplay is a one-to-one real-life interpretation forged by long hours of dedication, if you casually put something together just to participate in the fun, or even if your cosplay is leaning on the more questionable side of things.
Puppy, this chicken's bussin'.
Cosplaying, for the most part, is truly an incredibly rewarding passion, consisting of individuals who oftentimes may be more reserved, finding themselves coming out of their shell to participate in a warming sense of belonging. However, veering off the path of naivety of the darker aspects hidden beneath the surface, cosplay culture is not absolved of its negative aspects and bad actors by any means. From the mildly annoying to outright psychotic, the cosplaying community has brought forth some rather interesting individuals who have been the subject of online scrutiny throughout the years. But with our character of interest today, a predatory individual who has been virtually blacklisted from every major anime convention in the country, who has a special kind of love with her father and has a family made up of plastic dolls, I think it's safe to say that no story has ever been quite as perplexing, more so disturbing than hers. So if you'd allow me the absolute pleasure of introducing to you, Kelly White, aka AuressCosplays, aka Reborn Cosplay Mom of Many, or more easily referred to across internet forums simply as Auress. 29-year-old Kelly White, on the surface, appears to be quite the oddity when it comes to the minifigures found on TikTok, remaining quietly in her corner of the website with her humble following of around 35,000 followers on her main account, alongside an even more tucked-away page under the name Soft Girl Unicorn that houses a smaller fanbase of around 5,700 users, where she ironically has in her bio that she is gender fluid and goes by she/he, despite her open disavowalment of the LGBTQ+ community and her stance as an anti-woke cosplayer. When it comes to her presence on TikTok, her earliest known appearance dates all the way back to early 2019, where she performed a lip sync to a song about her love for anime, while she displayed to viewers her Full Metal Alchemist manga. Following this debut, Kelly would begin to upload across both accounts her numerous cosplays, switching between the title of both Kelly White and Auress, with her most notable cosplaying endeavors consisting of recreating scenes with characters from Hazbin Hotel, The Legend of Zelda, Steven Universe, and My Hero Academia. However, what was peculiar about her account that made her stand out against the rest of the cosplaying community was the bizarre inclusion of her 60-plus-year-old father, with whom she would often duet with, frequently in romantically themed scenarios, with her mother apparently being forced out of the picture, as Auress has declared her mom to be too overweight, therefore making her unworthy to participate in the hobby. Her words, not mine.
So a lot of people ask me sometimes, why doesn't your mom ever cosplay with you if your dad cosplays with you? And I'm gonna sound very mean, but I'm also gonna compare it to like how in Hollywood weight matters. I'm not saying my mom's fat, I'm just saying if she was like skinnier, and she's losing weight by the way, and yesterday I gave my mom a goal. If you get to 180 pounds, maybe you can cosplay Queen Eleanor with me as Merida, and you'll look more healthy.
Despite viewers of her shared fandom stumbling across her content from time to time and noting in the comments the bizarre behavior of a father and daughter cosplaying as a romantically invested couple, Auress would not see her first real sense of virality until late 2024, when she uploaded a POV vlog to her account of her returning home from an anime convention, where the caption states that she had been away from her 2 daughters over the weekend. For the first millisecond of this video, one would find nothing irregular about this. However, users quickly were left with a strong sense of discomfort and confusion when it is revealed that her daughters are, in actuality, all highly realistic reborn dolls, a type of doll that is oftentimes used by mothers as a therapeutic means to process the loss of a pregnancy. However, Auress has never been pregnant, nor has she ever lost a child for that matter, though it is explained that her reasoning as to acting as a mother to these dolls is due to her desire to fill a void inside of her that she feels can only be fixed through motherhood. She takes her so-called children everywhere with her, from road trips, movies, and cosplaying conventions, to even breakfast with her father, where each doll is given their own assigned seat and ordered their own food, where again, Auress's mom is nowhere to be found. Now, I know I just presented a lot of confusing information for you to take in there, but I hope you have quite the appetite, because I regret to inform you that that was only just the surface of what we are to discuss here today. In fact, everything that was just stated will come to be found rather tame in comparison to the nightmarish details that you and I will be analyzing here together. For many users, what they found to be yet another of the many questionable spectacles that the website has offered throughout its history was, in actuality, a figure that had garnered back-alley notoriety far before their debut to TikTok in 2019, had an extensive and volatile history dating as far back as 2011, a grand total of 8 years before she had ever arrived on the platform. From Twitter meltdowns targeted at people of color, as well as those of the LGBTQ+ community, to intense body shaming and ridicule of her mother, as well as other cosplayers, the creation of not safe for work images of underage anime characters, to her suspicious relationship with her father, with whom she has publicly stated attraction for, which is met with her creating deplorable allegations against him, involving her father allegedly taking the prior mentioned not safe for work photos of his own daughter, as well as equally disturbing claims of SA, followed by Auress's controversy involving sending not safe for work photos to minors in exchange for money, to her outright admitting that she is a predator, with her stating that she has even been in love with her younger brother's friend ever since he was 9, and that the only reason nothing has happened between the two, despite her belief that this twisted desire is a gray area, is due to her recognizing the legalities of such an act. The story of AuressCosplays is one that has been fermenting in the background of the internet, consisting of blatant hypocrisy, unwarranted verbal attacks against any and every demographic imaginable, and grotesque predatory behavior that has remained virtually undetected for the last 12 years. Now, before you and I dive right into this rather interesting case study of yet another internet creep who has managed to go undetected for years, if you'd allow me to briefly introduce myself, I'd be forever grateful. Hi, I'm Wonder, your one-stop shop for calm deep dives on some of the internet's most unsavory individuals around. I upload a new deep dive on a bi-weekly to tri-weekly basis, so if you find you enjoy what you see here today in terms of production itself, feel free to leave me a like and subscribe with the bell notification on so you never miss out on a new story in the future. As well as yours truly. What, you gonna forget about me? Look at this guy right here, he didn't want to like and subscribe. Also feel free to let me know in the comments what you did or didn't like about today's video so I can work on providing a better viewing experience for you in the future. If you're feeling up to it and feel like you want to help out, I'd love to meet my personal end-of-year goal of hitting 140,000 subscribers to this channel family. I want to say thank you for all the continued support to the channel. I've been able to talk to quite a few of you in the last month just in random places online, and even somebody last night recognized me while I was playing games. It genuinely was like, no way, that's freaking awesome, dude. It just makes me feel incredibly appreciated not only as a creator, but also as a person. If you'd like to help support the creation of future deep dives, feel free to consider supporting me over on Patreon Patreon, where you can have your name featured at the end of each video, as well as access to my Patreon-only Discord server, where you can stop by and say hello, or becoming a channel member, where you'll get access to unique badges to show off how cool and awesome you are. Becoming a member is always appreciated, but by no means is ever required. You being here already, my friend, genuinely does help me out quite a bit. If you'd also like to help further boost my ego, if I missed anything in today's video, or you just like to say hey, feel free to follow me over on my Instagram, as it is the easiest place to reach me. Apologies, but a brief announcement here for my current community members. But I have recently started a sleep-based channel where I interview different people and creators in VR, but the premise is to keep everything rather low-key, so you can fall asleep with some decent background noise if that's your kind of thing. I've had quite a few people reach out and tell me that they use my content to go to bed, so why not make something on the side for those lovely individuals? I have also started just chatting streams alongside other activities every Friday with either myself or friends over on my Twitch if you're interested in stopping by. Both of those channels can be found currently on screen. Thank you for allowing me to get that out of the way, and I hope to possibly see you around there soon, if you're feeling up to it. Without further ado, once more, my name is Wonder, and it is truly phenomenal to have you here today. So, with that said, go grab yourself a snack and a beverage of the liquid variety, and let's you and I go ahead and dive right into the bewildering story of AuressCosplays, TikTok's Hazbin Hotel Predator.
I do remember there's like a video clip of you saying that when you were 20, you had like this huge crush on someone that was 14.
Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about. His name is Sam. He's more of my brother's friend. You libtards are the people who are hateful. Anything I say, you blackmail me for disagreeing with.
Is it true you liked your brother's 14-year-old friend?
Yeah, well, he's 16 now, but I used to have a crush on him,
16 is still under the age in the United States, and you're 22.
I know.
Oh boy, I need to make a thrilling disclaimer here. Since currently a certain little wonderful platform has recently given a bunch of clankers actual admin privileges to Control-Alt-Delete people like me on a whim, I will stupidly have to censor the faces of these literal plastic dolls and put a small disclaimer text when they appear that they are, and I state, not real. There are no minors featured in this video. Anyways, let's get on with it, I suppose. So stupid. Before you and I can begin to fully explore the volatile details surrounding their tarnished legacy, we first have to ask ourselves two very pivotal questions. Who exactly is the infamous AuressCosplays, and where did she even come from? Important questions to ask, no doubt, but ones that, upon answering, will leave you and I with everlasting headaches nevertheless. But I have faith in you that I think you'll be okay. 29-year-old AuressCosplays, aka Kelly White, or more currently known as, stated prior, reborn cosplay mom of many, on the surface is a cosplay-themed TikToker from Long Island, New York, specifically, and forgive me if I mispronounce this, Ronkonkoma, a small hamlet with a population of around 19,000 residents as of the 2020 census. It is here where Auress currently resides with her parents, Joseph and Patricia, alongside her younger brother Casey, before he moved out. Auress does not live here by choice, as she has stated publicly, due to those who make jest at her for the fact that she still lives with her parents at 29, but rather she claims she does this out of financial necessity as she is unable to afford a home.
I live in Long Island because it's super expensive. Why don't you try getting a house there and see how expensive it is? You don't know my situation. I mean, you think I want to live with my parents like a child? No, I want my own house. I mean, I want to move to another state just to get my own house. You don't know my circumstances. Please leave me alone. Please stop calling me a child. I'm really getting sick and tired of people calling me a baby. If I'm such a baby, then how come I'm not using my parents' money anymore? How come I'm trying to save money for a house?
However, she isn't aiding her situation by any means here, as she phrases that her cosplaying endeavors, trips to conventions and purchasing of reborn dolls, are akin to that of financial necessities, which is why she cannot afford to leave the home.
My parents do not pay for most of my things. I pay for my own things ever since I got my job. You don't know me, so please stop bringing my parents into this. I was having a really great birthday until you had to make fun of me. Boo-hoo, she lives with her parents. Well, you know what? I'm really sorry that living in Long Island, New York is so ridiculously expensive that I financially can't live by myself. Maybe do your research before making fun of me. I had $200 in my PayPal account, and I did not use my parents' money. It was the money I earned from my job. I spent it on a Zelda cosplay from Echoes of Wisdom, and I spent it on a wig. 2 wigs. You know, I'm sorry I'm not adult enough for you. I'm sorry that Long Island is so expensive. I don't want to live with my parents either.
Hey, you know, I'm not a financial advisor. It's your money. You do as you please. I'm not your piggy bank whispering sweet nothings into your ear. But perhaps a little unsolicited, unprofessional advice if you're in a little bit of a financial bind. Maybe purchasing thousands of dollars worth of lifelike dolls isn't exactly the best way you could be spending your money. However, I can't even fully fault Auris for behaving this way, because it is in my strongest, utmost belief that her parents are not only both enabling this, and primarily on her dad's side, encouraging this behavior of hers. Consisting of a humble audience of over 35,000 followers, with over 1.5 million likes attributed to her account, Auris's account primarily revolves around her day-to-day life as a cosplaying quote-unquote mom to her, as the name suggests, reborn dolls. Lifelike dolls that are usually provided in rare instances as a therapeutic means to help a mother cope with the loss of a child. Something Auris herself has never actually experienced. However, this does not prevent her from starting what she believes to be a legitimate family in her eyes. Throughout her content, one can find numerous family vlogs with her current reborn dolls, Emily, Jen, Ashley, and Summer, where she takes these lifelike dolls out for everyday occasions such as frequenting restaurants, road trips, movies, and walking around Long Island together, capturing every moment like a proud mother watching her children grow up before her very eyes. Auris, despite recently selling off her son Adam for 72 doubloons, is currently in the market for several new additions to her family according to her Amazon wishlist, where she is seeking 3 more dolls to call her daughters. She states that once her family unit is finally complete, she will obtain more dolls, but these will strictly be for cosplaying purposes only. Interestingly enough, Auris has actually had a small amount of articles written about her, due to the peculiar nature of her account, where she goes more in depth as to her reasoning behind exactly why she chooses to raise a family of plastic nightmare fuel, and how that this was in reality a rather unexpected direction in her life. In an article by the New York Post posted on September 6, 2024, titled, wait a second, is this literally the title? Jesus Christ, what is journalism? I breastfeed my 7 dolls and care for them like real babies. I don't care what haters think. We are provided direct quotes from Auris, where she informs the interviewer that she had purchased her first reborn doll, Julie, for her 27th birthday, and how she had immediately felt a maternal bond form between them, stating that the two became virtually inseparable almost overnight. I just couldn't help but want to care for Jennifer like a real child, Auris said. I can't explain how it happened, but I suddenly got so attached to her and spent the week buying her clothes and eventually her own bed that sits next to the end of my bed in my room. Auris continues her explanation in the following paragraph with a statement that reads as the following. My dad explained to me it was normal to have the desire to be a parent now that I'm in my late 20s, so I didn't really question why I love these dolls so much like real children, she continued. They go everywhere with me. By 7 p.m., I get them all ready for bed and I play some songs on an ocarina.
So, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna play some songs on the ocarina.
This article then concludes with a summarization that Auris had began to combine her love for reborn dolls and cosplay into one singular passion, and how she had rebranded her TikTok account to represent this, hence the obvious name, Reborn Cosplay Mom of Many. Also, a small error I noticed that isn't really of major importance, but something you may have noticed if you were doing quick math with those dates there. This article states that Kelly was 29 in 2024. However, this is inaccurate, as was briefly shown prior. Auris just recently turned 29 in October of 2025. There is back and forth misinformation surrounding her age online, with some users stating she is in her 30s and early 20s, which is incorrect. For clarification, Aures's birthday is October 21st, 1996. Oh yeah, another thing I wanted to share with you. Entirely pointless information, but this article painfully begins with a pun that states that Aures is doing the best she can. So funny! I had to experience reading that, now so do you. With that cleared up, let's continue. When it comes to the other varying aspects of her account, Aures can be found portraying her favorite characters from media, with her most notable cosplays being that of characters from The Legend of Zelda, Hazbin Hotel, Steven Universe, My Hero Academia, as well as many others that would take far too long to list, but her portfolio is quite extensive. Often featured alongside in these cosplays of her is her father Joseph, with whom she frequently makes couples TikToks duets with her on her page. But not only does this pair do TikTok together, the two have been going to conventions as a couple long before her debut to TikTok. And yes, I purposefully use the word couple because they quite literally cosplay as characters that are shipped together, which is, yes, the intended goal. To cosplay romantically father-daughter style. There is quite a bit, rather a metric ton of disturbing details that we will unpack together here soon enough. Before she became known as the reborn cosplay mom of many over on TikTok, Aures's first appearance to the internet that I could find dates all the way back to June 2nd, 2011, when she posted to her still active Deviant account, simply known as Aures. Fan art she did of a character known as Midna from the game The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, a humble introduction expressing her admiration for the franchise that would act as the first glimmer of what would fully develop into a complete and utter 12-year-long dumpster fire that is actively still burning behind the scenes to this day. This DeviantArt page, consisting of countless lewd images of Aures that no amount of bleach in my eyes will ever be able to cure witnessing, had a rather innocent beginning in comparison of what was to come. There isn't much here aside from the aforementioned not safe for work images that is incredibly peculiar in nature to take away from this account, but it does provide us with insight as to what Aures is like as a person and how she has evolved from her earliest years. When visiting the biography section of her account, one can find a description that reads as the following. Current residence, Long Island, New York State. Favorite genre of music, Zelda, other video games, music, Disney, and Les Miserables. I know, I'm incredibly emo. This bio of hers continues on and actually goes rather in depth in a, very specific way, as it goes on to state the foods that she likes, the foods she hates, followed by her favorite seafood, musical artists, and anime. This about section is not of any real importance per se. However, there are quite a few interesting bits of information here that leave me somewhat perplexed. Such as, I wonder what the motive was for adding a favorite food section, followed by a favorite seafood section that just overlaps with the prior list of said favorite foods. It's also a little humorous that she states that she loves manga, but when it comes to her favorite writers, she implies that reading is boring. But like, you know people write mangas, right? There are words in manga. Hypothetical question here, what would you call a person who writes words in a manga? Ah, if only there was a word for that one. Maybe she just doesn't even read the mangas though. Maybe she's like me and she's like, oh boy, the pictures. But my favorite line out of all this, as it will come to ironically age very poorly, is where she states that her other dislikes are, and I quote, "Forgive me for my Disney-like censorship here. People who are female dogs to little kids. I'll kick those female dogs' gluteus maximuses." She has quite a magical way with words, doesn't she? At the bottom of her About Me section are several links to her socials, such as her Twitter, 2 separate Tumblrs, and her current channel. One of many, as she has a history of deleting her channels, much like that scene in Death Note where Light just starts like tweaking with the book. Most of which we will explore in due time as a loving class. But first things first, in chronological order, as her story quickly becomes a roller coaster of events and spectacles that are incredibly hard to keep track of and date in succession to one another. When it came to Aures's debut into the cosplaying community, her first documented cosplay from what could be found was technically posted on September 3rd, 2011 during a camping trip she took with her family, where she snuck away into the woods to capture a photo of her outfit with the image captioned as, quote, "In the lonely world." However, and this is not a disrespect to the cosplay itself, but I say that this was technically her first cosplay, as I am unsure as to what character she was attempting to portray here, as she states in the description of this post that this image was taken on her 3DS, and she doesn't state who she is trying to portray, which isn't made any more clear as she is wearing a t-shirt and open button-up, so your guess is as good as mine. I believe this is the same as her other cosplays featuring a similar character known as Alphonse, forgive me if I mispronounced that, from the anime Full Metal Alchemist, but it is far too blurry and non-descriptive to tell. Also, just a disclaimer, I blurred this image of Auris because she was still a minor at the time that this photo was taken. So apologies on my end, as I know we're trying to be a bit descriptive here, but we can't really see it. In this post, we also see Auris's, to my knowledge, first interaction with another member of the cosplaying community, which displays an individual expressing admiration for her photo, citing their excitement at the fact that Auris too was a Nintendo fan, with a user gleefully inquiring Auris about if it would be okay if she asked for her friend code, to which Auris blandly replies with a lackluster, sure. A small foreshadowing of her inability to reciprocate the kind gestures and words that would be presented towards her over the years as she began her full emergence into the cosplaying scene. And where community and friendship was presented, it would be matched with volatility and hatred from Auris for quite some time, something I personally believe was the result of chronic low self-esteem and self-depreciating aspects that can be found throughout the comment sections regarding her cosplays. A good example of this was when she posted on November 11th, 2011, her cosplay of a character known as Kari, and forgive me if I mispronounced that, from the series Kingdom Hearts, where the last line of the description reads as the following: I don't understand why people love my cosplay so much. To be honest, I think this is a crappy picture of me. Something off the cuff I also forgot to mention is the fact that there are several photos where Auris can be seen using Photoshop to make herself appear more thin than she actually is, which, quite frankly, is really sad, as body dysmorphia is one of the worst things anyone can experience. These sentiments would eventually blossom into full-blown toxic perfectionism, placed not only on herself but others in the cosplaying community, as well as her own mother, with whom she refused to cosplay with, publicly stating that despite her mother's interest in participating in her daughter's hobby, Auris believed that her mother was too overweight to accurately portray characters, citing that she would cosplay with her mother so long as she meets Auris's, I guess, government-mandated weight loss goals.
So a lot of people ask me sometimes, why doesn't your mom ever cosplay with you if your dad cosplays with you? And I'm gonna sound very mean, but I'm also gonna compare it to like how in Hollywood weight matters. I'm not saying my mom's fat, I'm just saying if she was like skinnier, and she's losing weight by the way, and yesterday I gave my mom a goal. If you get to 180 pounds, maybe you can cosplay Queen Eleanor with me as Merida, and you'll look more healthy.
Despite her clear uncertainty and lack of self-assurance, yet again, she is met with loving comments and advice from those who do not see the flaws of such a cosplay to prohibit the excitement of seeing someone enjoying themselves with their shared hobby as they continue to garner stable footing with their abilities in the craft. On September 18th, 2011, in a post that is incredibly desaturated for some reason, so apologies for that, Auris would post a live update to her DeviantArt page where she explained that she was starting school in the coming weeks and how she had grand plans to participate in a cosplaying competition at an upcoming unspecified anime convention that same year. However, according to what I could find online, the only anime conventions to take place after September 2011 were known as Anime USA, which was held in late November, followed by Pacific Media Expo and Expo TNT 2011, both held in December. Neither of which there is, to my knowledge, evidence that Auris had ever attended these cons. So, for her first publicly recorded appearance at a convention that can be found was at the 2013 Katsucon Anime Convention that took place at the Gaylord National Resort and Convention Center in National Harbor, Maryland from February 15th through the 17th. It was here where Auris would fully begin her journey as a cosplayer, with their presence once solely being bound to that of Tumblr, DeviantArt, and Twitter, and to now becoming a full-on active member within the scene, associating and sharing her passion with other like-minded individuals, in person over a weekend of entertainment and fun events alike. She would even be fortunate enough to go from using her 3DS to capture her efforts to meeting a photographer by the name of Alicia Griffin, who would take Auris's first ever professional cosplay photos of her as a Zelda variant from the game The Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks, something she joyously shared on her DeviantArt page. even going as far to state in her bio that her favorite photographer was Alicia Griffin, which has not been changed to this day. It is clear, in my opinion at least, that KatsuCon 2013 was a particularly meaningful weekend of Aures's life, especially when she has attended the very same con that started it all for her every following year leading up to present day. From what I've been told, these conventions truly are a one-of-a-kind experience that you just have to witness yourself to fully grasp the energy of such an occasion, and it is something I personally intend to find out for myself at MagFest 2026 this upcoming January. If you happen to be there at the same time, it'd be great to see you. Over the next 6.5 years, it would appear from her continuous posts to her DeviantArt, Tumblr, and Twitter pages that Aureus was maintaining a relatively socially awkward, yet nonetheless innocent existence in her pursuit to keep the dream alive that she had promised to herself at 14, kept alive through a consistent valiant effort to get better and better at what she does. However, if this was merely the legacy of AuressCosplays, you and I obviously wouldn't be here. Because buried beneath the surface of all we just discussed is far more that meets the eye than any one person casually following what they suspected to merely be a shy cosplayer sharing their hobby could have ever realistically anticipated. On April 4th, 2019, at exactly 11:18 a.m., in the back alleys of the internet far away from prying eyes, an anonymous user would post a thread to a message board known as lolcow.farms, a bewildering not-safe-for-work photo of Aureus, followed by an even more bizarre caption that reads as the following. And forgive me, I have to change the stated words ever so slightly. Openly racist 22-year-old cosplayer from New York that frequently gets into drama with the cosplaying community and is extremely delusional. Used to go on tirades on Twitter about how she hated foreign people, and now has her father take lewd pictures of her cosplaying underage characters in her backyard. When I came across this forum, I was pretty stunned. I had been made aware of the subject of Aureus through a mutual acquaintance who had encountered her quite a few times, and stated that she was quite the character in the cosplaying scene. Yet, based upon that information, I truly had no idea what to expect. But this board contains screenshot after screenshot, disturbing images, claims of deplorable behavior, and even more grotesque allegations surrounding her and her father's relationship, with alleged SA allegations being involved, her blatant racism and vitriol towards other members of the cosplaying community, and inability to comprehend the concept of hypocrisy, followed by speculations, conspiracies, rage bait, and extensive lore, all continuously documented in this small pocket of the internet from 2019, with the latest entry to this forum being from only 14 days ago at the time this script is being written. But just as I was getting ready to fully sit down and begin sifting through what this message board had to offer, I got a Discord notification. Hey Wonder, there's someone called AuressCosplays. I've been documenting her for nearly a decade now, since I was just 16 myself. She's done everything you can imagine, from sending not safe for work photos to minors, to bullying her friends for being neurodivergent. I've made videos on her in the past long ago, but I think it's time there's finally a good comprehensive documentary, and I think you're the best for the job. Here's a folder full of damning screenshots. I can connect you to anyone involved if you'd like as well. A creator by the name of Neon Caffeine, one of the only people I have seen actually cover Aureus to a wider audience before, reached out to me via Discord and provided me out of left field an entire Google Drive of evidence that, primarily, to my knowledge, had never been seen by the light of day. Upon peeking into said drive, I wasn't sure what to expect or exactly what I was looking for. A lot of what I initially saw seemed to be out of context screenshots and DMs that, despite their apparent unhinged nature, I couldn't make much out of in terms of cohesiveness. However, I was quickly taken aback when I was made witness to several exchanges involving blatant racism, body shaming, and narcissistic gloating from Aureus towards other unsuspecting cosplayers who were just trying to have fun with their hobby in peace. Some examples of this were leaked exchanges from one user where Aureus had replied to their story, calling someone's Hazbin hotel cosplay lazy, followed by her sending her own cosplay photos of the same character, citing her attempt to be true to the art form. Like, oh my god, huff your own booty cheek dust under your bed sheets, why don't you? The self-absorption and condescending behavior can also be seen in another series of messages when Aureus tells a Steven Universe cosplayer that the character Ruby doesn't wear glasses and that they are the wrong body type to be attempting such a portrayal in the first place. Which, not to be that guy, but while there aren't rubies in the show that specifically wear glasses, the character Garnet, which is a fusion of the character Ruby, literally wears shades. Before I show you just how drastic of a turn these directions take in terms of classical racism, this is not by any means meant to insult anyone's body type. But, Auris, I don't think this is particularly a one-to-one depiction either. Rules for thee, but not for me, I suppose. Upon the literal thousands of screenshots I was presented with, I then stumbled across a single out-of-context Instagram DM where Auris was arguing with someone who said that they did not like her cosplay of Raven from Teen Titans. Auris takes a jab at this user's skin color, saying that this user is only attacking her because she is jealous that she's white, to which she is met with the user just simply clowning on her, before Auris just straight up calls her the N-word. Wow, very classy, Auris, very, yeah. But what makes all of this so insanely hypocritical is the little cherry on top. That is her inspirational message that can be found on her Ko-Fi page that reads as the following. On the left, taken at KatsuCon 2019. On the right, November a week before Thanksgiving. Cosplays can always improve. Instead of shaming someone who may not be the best at cosplays, use words of encouragement, actual constructive criticism, and not "your cosplay sucks booty." That's not criticism, that's being mean. Refer back to her calling a Steven Universe cosplayer the N-word, I guess? Oh yeah, constructive criticism at its finest. Now, despite the sour taste this type of unhinged behavior would naturally leave in anyone's mouth, where things suddenly took an even darker and far more unsettling turn was when, after sifting through several hundred images and short videos, I came across a file simply labeled AuressVid1.mp4. Press click, and I was genuinely caught off guard by what I was hearing.
Is it true you liked your brother's 14-year-old friend?
Yeah. Well, he's 16 now, but I used to have a crush on him because
16 is still under the age in the United States, and you're 22.
I know. Well, he probably doesn't think of me as a girlfriend, but ever since he was 9, this is gonna sound really creepy. I felt like I loved him because he understood me. He really got me. And I could talk to him about anything. And that's why I was like, I'm gonna marry him someday.
You realize that is
yeah.
Wow, I don't know about you. I'd hope you agree, but that's pretty disgusting. To somehow make the claim of liking a 16-year-old even worse by stating that you felt seen and understood by them ever since they were 9, leading to you quickly falling in love with them at the same age. It is simply unhinged. And the fact that she seems almost humored by telling viewers this information, it leaves so many questions up in the air that we must answer here together. So I suppose it goes without saying that you and I have quite the work cut out for us, as we are now merely at the base of the mountain of evidence we will have to sift through to truly make sense out of whatever the hell has been going on here, hidden away primarily out of sight in this niche corner of the internet. This is going to be a genuine mess. So, where do you and I even really begin?
One more time. I'm gonna hyperventilate right now. What did you just say? I'm so in love with my dad.
One of the claims that's been made against you has to do with
Oh yes, I know what you're talking about. I said that I had sexual feelings for my dad. Why do you always have to bring my parents into it? Also, I'm tired. I didn't sleep well. But why do you always have to bring my parents into it? It's none of your business. Like, go away.
Viewer discretion advised. Trigger warning. CSA. When putting together all the puzzle pieces that make up Auris's legacy, one of the most prominent controversies that is often noted throughout online discussion boards and internet forums is her bizarre, allegedly highly inappropriate relationship with her father. Auris's father, Joseph, would first make his debut appearance to the internet via his daughter's DeviantArt page on September 9th, 2018, where she uploaded a photo of him in My Hero Academia cosplay of the character All Might.
Young Bakugo. Ha! You're never gonna become a hero if you have your face buried in your phone all day.
Over the next year following this posting, Auris would continue to upload further cosplaying photo shoots, some even where she is posing in bikini tops, which I must state isn't inherently not safe for work, where she would cite the photography credit as being that of her father's doing. A crucial detail that I want you to make a mental note of for future reference. But where Aures's father would really begin to shine was when Aures posted her first TikTok to her Reborn cosplay account on August 19th, 2019, where the two could be seen in My Hero Academia cosplay meandering around the beach in a goofy fashion. Something that is interesting to note here is that the first several TikToks posted to this account primarily featured her father without Aures being present in quite a few, where her father would perform cosplaying duets with other TikTokers. And a few of these are quite odd in my personal opinion, and perhaps I'm gatekeeping and not expanding my horizons on the socially acceptable activities of the geriatrics. But, for example, to duet yourself in a romantic cosplaying skit with other TikTokers when you're pushing your 60s, it just seems, oh, I don't know, a little f***ing strange to me.
What? Husker? What? Get a few stiff drinks in me and I'd toss that ass like a salad.
But what the hell, boy?
Wow, that was, how do I put it? Painful. Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it. Quite the experience you and I just shared there together. At first, I thought that this was just Aures simply promoting her father on her account, due to simply wanting to include him in her content for one reason or another, and that she was setting these skits up for him to do, which still may be very well possible, which he happily went along with for the enjoyment of his daughter. However, and I could be very wrong here, I found a caption on one of her TikToks that may suggest that this account was actually her father's originally, and that Aures took over the account at some point because hers got deleted, which would make sense as to why there are multiple duets with her father, and herself on her own separate page, all in one video, and why Aures fails to appear in multiple. As I browsed through these TikToks one by one, sorting from oldest to newest, I was looking for anything that would lend credence to the claims that suggest that aside from base level oddities, that there was something more going on between this father and daughter duo that breached into a realm of rather suspect behavior. For the first several TikToks, I experienced primarily a mix of humor and genuine disturbance from the occasional nightmare fuel that would jump scare me as I scrolled. There were duets of her father with quite a few teenagers to young adults, some with not safe for work themes, but nothing that really stood out to me in the grand scheme of it all. However, that was until I noticed a TikTok that I almost skipped by habit due to having the audio muted. Because realistically, there's only so much of that I can really take in one sitting. This is a TikTok where Aures and her father are seen cosplaying characters from Hazbin Hotel. Aures quickly raises something up into frame, a fabric of sorts, before she walks off camera, including the brief TikTok. So I unmuted the audio and rewatched it, and realized that these were women's underwear she was holding up, presumably her own, with the skit audio being based around her character stealing Husky's, her father's, underwear.
I stole your underwear, Husky.
I don't have any underwear.
True. They're Alice.
Wakey, 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 it's time for school.
Yes, I will admit that while this TikTok is indeed odd, that is pretty much all we can realistically take away from it. In my personal opinion, filming a video with your daughter where she plays with her underwear online is incredibly weird, and if I was a father in this situation, there's no chance that I would allow my daughter to exhibit these behaviors to the freaks of the internet. But here her father is, content with idly participating in such an activity. It's a little bizarre. Continuing on, if we keep scrolling through the account, we come across our first two clips where Aures and her father are cosplaying at an anime convention, two characters that Aures romantically ships together from the League of Legends show Arcane. And these TikToks, one being a before and after of their cosplays, and the other being the two on a dance floor, Aures can be seen being rather physically affectionate with her father. Now, yes, obviously one can be physically affectionate with their parent in a completely innocent way. That is by no means what I'm saying here. But what I am saying is that I personally felt uncomfortable watching these TikToks of theirs. Because A, the two are cosplaying as a shipped couple, and B, Aures is incredibly handsy with her father in a way that feels more akin to that of romantic interest than a platonic moment with a parent. The way she slowly runs her hands against his, the way she caresses his face, and the way she stares lovingly into Joseph's eyes, it truly left me with a severe case of the heebie-jeebies. However, aside from the continual appearance of her father throughout numerous duets, both consisting of romantic and non-romantic themes, the majority of the content found on Aures's TikTok page was more speculative and bewildering in regards to her relationship with her father rather than anything directly concrete. But something that one could easily forget to ask themselves when staring at awe, more so an abstract terror at some of the TikToks these two have made. is where is Auress's mom, Patricia, to be found in all of this? Not a single time that I could find across her channel, TikTok page, Instagram, or any of her DeviantArt posts that she's made within the last 12.5 years does she feature her mother in a single photo, which I find to be incredibly odd given the fact that she lives with both of her parents still, and yet even in non-cosplay related content, she is nowhere to be found. This very well could just be her not wanting to have a social media presence, which is entirely fine and justifiable. But as stated prior, I'm a little skeptical of this, given the fact that Auress's mother had allegedly made an attempt to interact with Auress and her cosplaying, just for Auress to then shut that door on her. And given the fact that we will see that Auress has volatility held towards her mother, I personally don't think that her mother's absence is a coincidence. I need to add a correction here. In a Google Drive of evidence I was sent, I did manage to find a singular instance where she took a photo with her mother. With that said, let's continue. Here's an example of what I mean here. Auress's father recently had his birthday passed this August, I believe officially making him in his early 60s, so Auress filmed their entire day together. Joe's birthday begins with Auress, a reborn doll, and him going out for lunch at a seafood restaurant where she feeds her reborn doll lobster, by the way, and she wonders why she's broke all the time, before the two head back to the house for cake. Joe lights his own candles and presents his birthday cake to an entire table of reborn dolls, which feels like a scene straight out of a horror movie. I mean, my god, I can only imagine what is going through the head of this poor dog over here in the corner with a cone on its head. My buddy looks a little bit confused, a wee bit perplexed, I suppose. Auress then feeds each of her dolls their own slice of cake, and the day concludes with her and her father watching The Godfather, as that is his favorite movie. But what is just so odd here is that Patricia is, yet again, nowhere to be found on her husband's birthday for the entirety of the day. And this isn't the only occasion of this occurring too. To my knowledge, Patricia has never once attended a con with a duo, and there are multiple vlogs of Auress and her father going on trips, restaurants, and dinner, all with the reborn dolls tagging along to make their family outing complete, and yet still no sign of Auress's mom, ever. And it isn't as if Auress's mother hasn't made an effort to show interest in her daughter's passions either. If we recall, some of her earliest cosplays posted to her DeviantArt. In the description of several of these posts, it states that her mom had purchased her wigs to help her put together costumes. An endearing gesture, I feel. And when her mother allegedly asked Auress if she too could attempt to cosplay with her, Auress's response was that her mother was far too overweight to ever cosplay, presenting her mother with a goal weight before Auress would ever consider such an idea.
I'm not saying my mom's fat, I'm just saying if she was like skinnier, and she's losing weight by the way, and yesterday I gave my mom a goal. If you get to 180 pounds, maybe you can cosplay Queen Eleanor with me as Merida in Hollywood. Weight matters.
The only documented time I have ever been able to uncover Auress genuinely considering cosplaying alongside her mother was in a video posted to her channel, Kelly White, where she discusses potentially doing a Little Mermaid cosplay with her mom, where she, Auress, could be Ariel and her mother could be Ursula. Which, I'm unsure as to how many of you are familiar with this character, but let's just say that Ursula's a little, how would you say, shoddy, a little big-bagged. I must reiterate that this isn't meant to insult anyone's weight by any stretch of the imagination. I know that I'm making jokes here, but I'm more so making jest at the fact that the one time Auress considers cosplaying with her mother, the first thing that comes to mind is a rather heavyset villain, since, as we saw her state prior, she believes that her mother can only cosplay characters that she finds to be within a believable weight class. Her casual nature about publicly body-shaming her mother is just so incredibly messed up. Further displays of Auress attacking not only her mother for her weight, but herself in the process, exhibiting our already speculated theory that Auress has incredibly low self-esteem, can also be located on her inactive Twitter account. It is here where she would primarily post her every waking thought into the void, with a specific exchange, consisting of a laughably cruel post between her and another user that reads as the following. I'm too fat. Only skinny girls can wear makeup and dress pretty. Fat people would look ridiculous if they did that. My mom is fat and old and she doesn't deserve to look pretty. In fact, she doesn't. A user then responds by saying, I beg to differ. I know many heavier ladies who dress well and look absolutely gorgeous. Be kind. To which Auress responds with, but she's incredibly ugly. She doesn't even have a neck. She's the ugliest woman of the night I have ever seen. The user before then replies, "Oh, how do you know she's a maiden of the night though? If she's a maiden of the night, then obviously she's got something going for her in the looks department." This is then followed by yet another separate tweet of Auris saying, "My mom doesn't dress pretty. Good thing because she's fat and ugly." Following this, in another post separate from the prior, Auris commented yet another documented instance about her mother's weight in response to one user's cosplay that reads as, "I've seen girls much worse than you. At least your neck's visible. My mom doesn't have a neck." Is this really necessary to put on a public social media platform? These public displays of insults towards her mother were not solely limited to these tweets either. Far from it, actually. Auris is no stranger to such repeated instances of vitriol aimed at her mother, as she claims to vehemently despise this woman, most likely, in my opinion, stemming from a deep-seated jealousy of the time that she is able to spend with her father alone. Because God forbid she spends time with her husband, instead of sharing weekends and holidays with a man like it's some sort of custody arrangement. I'm going to take a wild guess here and assume that Auris's mom would not exactly be too hyped on the idea of a mother-father-daughter polycule. But hey, what do I know? Weirder things have probably happened, maybe. There's a non-zero chance. An example of this jealousy stems from a Father's Day post Auris had made to her Twitter, where she states that her mother was selfish for taking Joseph out for dinner, effectively taking him away from her, citing her mother as selfish, followed by another set of tweets that show her and her father together with the captions, "I love you more than my mom, Dad." However, despite her expression of love and admiration for her father, only 2 days later she confusingly posted a tweet backtracking these sentiments, stating that she now regretted celebrating Father's Day, citing that she had just ended her relationship with him, a profession of disconnection that would remain brief, as the two would soon return right back to duetting together on TikTok only a few weeks later. The exact reasoning for this tweet is never expanded upon further, and it remains as an incredibly vague footnote into the behind-the-scenes life of Auris and her father. On Mother's Day of 2017, Auris's love for her mother, rather lack thereof, would be displayed once again in a tweet directed at her that reads as the following. "Mother's Day is garbage. I'll always give my mom the worst Mother's Day because she doesn't deserve me. Kiss my ass in hell, twat." It is never explicitly stated throughout her constant tweeting as to what reason she specifically hates her mother for, but as stated prior with my jealousy theory, I feel that would make the most logical sense here, given her almost romanticized approach towards her own father, followed by her seemingly intentional exclusion of her mother from virtually every aspect of her life. However, despite this hatred towards her mother, Auris has been outed a non-zero amount of times for making sock puppet accounts of her mother to defend her in times of controversy and backlash, as a desperate attempt to have people stop harassing her, primarily seen in instances where Auris is called out for her public displays of blatant racism online. The first example that can be found of Auris allegedly attempting to portray herself as her mother comes from a series of replies on Twitter under an account that is speculated to be Auris's mom's actual Twitter account that she had logged into to defend herself with. These tweets state that she, Auris's mom, had reported all accounts threatening her daughter, and that Auris's action should be excused because she has a disability, and that she was not actually a racist, but instead that everyone who followed her just didn't understand who she truly was on the inside. Which, okay, I've been building up to this as I've been trying to find the right time to divulge the many documented cases of Auris's racism. So what better time than now, given that this tweet claims that we're just misunderstanding her intent. Oh, what fun you and I are to have. As we saw prior, we've already witnessed Auris, when losing an argument in an Instagram DM, call an African-American cosplayer the N-word, so there's that. And in another insanely unhinged tweet targeted at the Black community, Auris quite literally admits to being a racist in a tweet where she states that she does not like African-American people, and cites her reasoning being that she believes them to be unruly because they raised their children on Tyler Perry movies, and that while she has tried to hold it back for so long, she can no longer contain her racism. Again, this, I would argue, you know, I might not be too well versed in English here, but again, there isn't real speculation that she may or may not be racist when she wears the title like it's a badge of honor. Exhibit B. In the following tweets, she once again states her bigoted views towards the African American community by saying that she does not hate such individuals based upon the color of their skin, but because, once again, she states that she believes that they are violent. Okay, So maybe we can help Auris out here a bit. Well, Mr. Oven Mitt of Racism, allow me to tell you what it really means. So if you despise a race of people, and you claim that every person from that demographic falls in a category of a singular trait or stereotype, and that then forges your view of every person from said demographic, there is a magical word for that. Well, what might that word be? I'm glad you asked, Oven Mitt of Racism. It's called racism. And it kind of sounds like, oh, I don't know, that Auris might dislike these people based upon the color of their skin, given the whole painting entire demographics with a completely negative broad stroke. Just, you know, some food for thought. But don't you worry, because if you fall into any other category of race, Auris has love and heartfelt sentiments to send your way. For all of my lovely Latin and Hispanic friends out there, Auris has an interesting little tweet exchange between her and another user that reads as the following. This tweet begins with Auris stating that she'd rather perish than learn about Latino people. A user responds to this tweet asking her, "Doesn't that seem, oh, I don't know, not right?" To which Auris then replies, "I would just like to make it clear that I have a racism towards them, and I like it." I don't know about you guys, but despite what Auris's mom says about her daughter not being racist, I'm having the slightest bit of suspicion that she just might, dare I say, be a little racist. It's just a hunch though, I could be entirely wrong. Perhaps we need some more examples to really formulate our opinions here. In a tweet for the Asian community, she equally accuses her mother of being prejudiced in a tweet that states, quote, "My mom said some bad things about Asian people. I'm starting to listen to it, and my mom is turning me into a racist." Is this really the best examples we have? That could mean literally anything. I mean, we might just be taking it the wrong way. I mean, she really does have a fondness for places like Japan after all. Specifically, their age of consent laws, which she strangely enough refuses to condemn.
I'm just speaking from the context of Japanese culture. In Japan, they view 13-year-olds as adults. I don't really want to question the Japanese culture at all. I feel like there's like a gray area.
See, it's all just one big misconception. Lost in translation, baby. Dear white people, does this shirt offend you? Oh my god. Jesus Christ. Okay. Maybe all in all, she's a little racist. The only, I believe, genuine documentation I have seen of Auris's mom actually coming to the defense of her daughter in a public online space is surprisingly on Lolcal Farms of all places, where she allegedly commented on her daughter's thread the following message. "This is the only time I will comment about this. I am not racist, quite the opposite. My daughter was never nor anything inappropriate happening with anyone in the family. My husband did not take lewd pics. There is a lot of misinformation and conjecture here that is not true. There are issues none of you know or have the right to know or intrude upon our lives." The only reason I personally find this message to be potentially legitimate, despite its odd location on the internet, is due to the fact that when Auris is allegedly typing as her mother, there are clear typos, run-on sentences, lack of commas, etc. But when we compare the way Patricia writes in her Facebook post in comparison to the one found on the lol.cal forums, it is virtually a one-to-one in terms of grammar and sentencing structure. But I'm sure you're probably making note right now of something that was said in that post. And don't worry, I know what it is. It is the actual context as to why this post was made in the first place, which was made to diffuse any sort of allegations regarding sexual misconduct between Auris and her father. So let's actually explore those allegations now, shall we? Because it is quite an unholy, albeit speculative, mess to sift through. Where this theory of inappropriate behavior between Auris and her father that continues to circulate online takes an even darker turn is when on the afternoon of November 2nd, 2019, seemingly out of the blue, Auris would casually tweet a grotesque allegation made against her father involving CSA, and how she had grown to view him as her prince/lover as a means to cope with the prolonged abuse. I do actually have a speculative perspective that I'd like to share, as these tweets were later claimed to be nothing more than rage bait, and cited as a clear attempt of Auris attempting to seek attention online, which could very well be possible as she herself has admitted to rage baiting in the past. But there are some discrepancies that I want us to take a further look at throughout our analysis. That leads me to cast my own doubt on the rage bait theory. But first things first, allow me to read this tweet to you directly. And again, I know I stated it at the beginning of this chapter, but once more, a trigger warning for CSA. As can be seen on screen, the tweet states, quote, "My father has been committing SA against me since I was 6. Ever since, I've been so confused about our dynamic, and when I was 7, I started pretending he was my prince/lover. I'm glad I have Rachel to talk to when I feel abused or upset." After this tweet was located, I was made aware of another that is equally horrific that reads as the following. "Me and my dad had a fight because I didn't want to play with him. He got so mad that I got upset and I said I'm finding a different house to stay at. I walked to Rachel's apartment and told her what happened. At times when I feel like a victim of SA, I have Rachel. This, I do not have to explain, is an incredibly serious accusation to make." Now, in an interview that we will be dissecting later, Auris does come out and state that almost all of her online activity during this time period was actually her experimenting to see if she could handle backlash, and I cannot rightfully nor morally speculate on what may or may not have happened in someone's life. Because truthfully, I despise when people try to reach beyond the surface level explanation for their own desire for a more dramatic and juicy story than there really is. I find it to be incredibly poor journalism, not that I myself am anywhere near a journalist. However, and I could be very wrong here, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, but erring on the side of hypocrisy. Allow me, if you will, to share my exact thoughts surrounding these tweets. Auris, as we have seen, genuinely does not have a filter when it comes to what she says online. She doesn't watch what she says, and sometimes her thought patterns seem a little lost in the clouds, leading to more than quite a few instances of oblivious hypocrisy. And so, out of the blue, in a means to just randomly rage bait her father, the man who she refers to as being her everything, with whom she has an apparent jealousy over, leading towards Auris's seemingly possessive nature, and uncomfortable duets with the two cosplaying shipped characters together with peculiar physical affection displayed, she just happens to tweet out a very real and complex response that CSA victims have been known to exhibit. It just seems oddly in line, I suppose, for lack of better terms. Something I would also like to provide context for in regards to the friend that she states that she would confide in. This individual, Rachel, was one of Auris's closest and only real-life friends who shared an equal love for cosplaying together. It is safe to say from an outside looking in that Rachel was most likely Auris's best friend for several years due to them appearing in multiple vlog videos and cosplaying photo shoots featuring the duo on Auris's DeviantArt. And I must say, from what little I have seen from her appearances in these said vlogs, Rachel strikes me as an incredibly sweet person who may possibly suffer from some form of developmental challenges of their own, similar to Auris. This friendship would eventually end, as Auris would one day announce to her Facebook that she could no longer tolerate a friend who was neurodivergent, and that it infuriated her that Rachel did not enjoy the same movies as her, did not curse, and when the two were in high school, she saw that Rachel had a habit of speaking to herself, which Auris says made her incredibly embarrassed to be around Rachel. However, she attempted to make it work. Though after several years of this behavior, Auris could no longer tolerate Rachel for being a human being, I guess, so she cut things off with her, disgustingly referring to Rachel as being, quote, inferior AF, simply because she was on the spectrum. What an absolute garbage friend that Auris was to this person, especially since she posted this fully believing that she was in the right here. What an absolute train wreck. Getting back on track to the subject matter of the allegations Auris had made against her father. I've seen people state in forums and over on Instagram, off the basis of her own admission, mind you. However, she does not specifically reference these tweets directly, that Auris had made this allegation in a failed attempt to garner attention. However, this Twitter account only has 116 followers, and the tweet itself has only ever received 1 like with no comments. So unless she knew that these messages would spread elsewhere, and I am just unfamiliar where that location may be online, it just really doesn't make a lot of sense to me as to why she would allegedly post rage bait virtually into the void for no one to see. Now, this is going to be incredibly TMI, but it is where the foundation of my speculation comes from. And I know people say online, no, don't open up like that, but I personally don't see an issue for myself being open about these kinds of issues, so I really hope this doesn't come across as me as presenting myself unnecessarily under the lens of a victim complex. But I myself am a survivor of early prolonged CSA. Having such a terrible infliction placed upon you from such an early age, it can cause the brain to develop in some really wacky ways, especially if you can't really make any sense of what happened, and you don't have anyone to really rely on to walk you through that. However, I internalized this as a deep-rooted sense of guilt, and by the 4th grade I started exhibiting severe traits of OCD, which I was already susceptible to developing. But what happened all but guaranteed its emergence. This was my brain's funny little way of having control over uncertainties and lack of reasoning in my life. I needed a way to cope and make sense of life, so OCD was conveniently there as a toxic helping hand, so to speak. So when I read Auress's tweet, and again, I must preface I could be 100% entirely wrong here, but it immediately struck me as a completely realistic scenario that does make sense. There was also the fact that Auress often posts romantic ship-themed posts to her Instagram of her and her father, everything we just stated prior, followed by her exhibiting intensely graphic fantasies under a sock puppet account where she pretended to be her father, writing the post about an upcoming Legend of Zelda cosplay that the two were planning for. Now, forgive me, I will have to keep this post pretty censored as it is quite a rough read. I know how annoying that is, but with that said, as can be seen on screen, this Instagram post reads as the following. Dadress7 says, cosplay for 2020 along with @AuressCosplay, as well as what we'll do together on TikTok. I had some ideas to ship to Suyu Asui with her and my Aziwa cosplay, as well as doing Zant with her as Midna, portraying her as a SA victim, seen in one of the slides. Kelly showed me the game The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, and I can imagine Midna being a victim of SA by Zant. He took her throne, transformed her, then tried to end her. Anyways, I hope you look forward to my cosplays with my daughter. Aside from the blatant graphic nature of this post, and we can all but confirm that Auress is the one writing this, she depicts that her father would cosplay as the character Zant, while Auress would cosplay as one of her favorite characters, Midna, where Midna is portrayed as an SA victim, further citing that she can imagine Midna falling victim of such atrocities at the hands of Zant. So, from the way that I'm reading this, it very much seems like Auress is saying that the two should cosplay as two characters, where her father is a perpetrator and she is his victim. And in an even more disturbing revelation, in 2 separate interviews, one by a user over on Instagram named I Want Some More, and another by a creator named Femyoys, Auress has publicly stated not only an attraction to her father, but has elaborated on such rumors. In the I Want Some More interview, which in its entirety seems to have been lost to time, the interviewer is heard midway through asking a question that appears to be them inquiring if Auress's father was merely someone she looked up to, or if there was something more going on behind the scenes, to which Auress simply states that she has an intimate attraction towards him.
One more time, please. I'm gonna hyperventilate right now. What did you just say?
I'm so in love with my dad.
And in the interview with Femyoys, Auress is further questioned about what she meant when she stated this, with Auress answering that she had only made such a comment for a reaction, and that she was, quote, mostly joking.
One of the claims that's been made against you has to do with incestuous tendencies.
Oh yes, I know what you're talking about. I said that I had feelings for my dad. At first I was kind of joking when I believe it was I Want Some More who was interviewing me in the Instagram live stream, and then I got all giddy because I saw her reaction, and then I repeated it and I said I have love for my dad with a big smile on my face. Well, I didn't actually mean it, and I know I'm keeping it vague when I say that, and I know you don't want me to be vague, but I was just saying that to get a reaction out of I Want Some More, whatever her name actually is.
Keyword mostly joking, by the way. Pair this with a prior tweet, as well as every other aspect that we have already covered, and I just don't really know what to make of it. Perhaps there is the very real possibility that I am mirroring my own experiences into a situation where it doesn't belong, but my situation is far from the only one that I have familiarized myself with. Auress does have this bizarre yet very casual not safe for work aspect to her personality that I'd argue would probably come from somewhere. Quite possibly the internet, because that would absolutely 100% make sense. However, another allegation we are yet to explore is her claim that her father takes her not safe for work photos of her for her DeviantArt page. In the Twitter exchange that lit the spark on this conspiracy, a follower of Auress questions her about why she was posting not safe for work photos on her account, to which Auress replies that she wanted to receive backlash on Twitter to see if she could handle it. This user then responds by calling Auress, quote, stupid, and asks her about who took such photos to begin with. To which Auris simply answers, "My dad." I must make it abundantly clear here that Auris's claim is anecdotal, and there is no evidence that proves that Joseph has committed any wrongdoing against his daughter, especially since she mentions in the reply above that she was actively trying to get backlash online, followed by a tweet that would most certainly achieve that goal. With that said, what is interesting about this claim is that in the interview we will be watching here shortly regarding her predatory allegations, she says that she has in fact tried to get her father to take NSFW photos of her, to which he allegedly declined. So it isn't exactly as if this claim came out of thin air, as she does admit that she wanted him to do this, and she says that the only thing that prevented this from happening was her father's lack of inclination to do so.
Is it true that you had your father take images of you?
Again, I just said that for a reaction. What actually happened is that at the time, I asked my dad, "Can you take pictures of me while I'm like this?" I couldn't get him to do it at all.
Okay, so he technically didn't do it, but you wanted him to do it and you asked him to do it, but he technically didn't do it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
So if he was willing to do it, it would have happened then, right? He was the only party that didn't consent, but you wanted it to happen.
Yes, exactly.
So let me get this straight. You wanted your own father to take photos of you, and you also said that you had feelings for your father, but you were actually joking about having feelings for your father to own the trolls or something.
I just wanted some help with the camera. I didn't bother to buy a ring light, which is what I'm using now to hold my camera up. I could have used a ring light to take the photos, but it didn't occur to me until I turned 25 and I got a ring light for my birthday, and I've been using ring lights ever since.
The only additional evidence we have for this allegation is the photos themselves. And don't you worry, I would not nor could I scar you like that, but I did weather the storm and brought alongside some eye drops to help with the burning sensation, and I sifted through several of these images to see if I could find anything of noteworthiness. What a fun time. And despite the numerous not safe for work photos taken in the backyard of her family's home, only a few of these photos stood out to me, and the reason for it is admittedly very far-reaching. And these three incredibly low-quality photos, presumably taken in her backyard. Auris is depicted cosplaying a lewd version of a character known as Atsuko Kagari, forgive me if I terribly mispronounce that, from the show Little Witch Academia. This character is canonically 16 years old. These three photos, while in the same location, are all shot in slightly different positions and heights from one another. You can tell by following the direction of this fallen tree branch. Again, very much reaching here. Now, this obviously means one of two things. That Auris has a phone tripod, which she decided to move and change the position of ever so slightly for each photo, which is by no means uncommon, or someone is indeed taking these photos. Those are two equally legitimate possibilities, though again, I must reiterate that this proves nothing directly against Joseph. It is just merely my intent to iron out the allegations that I found across these forums. And in doing so, we have to do our due diligence, even if it is highly speculative. And a few more additional photos that did raise some questions though. Auris has presented both safe for work and not safe for work images to her DeviantArt of her time at a convention known as Colossal Con. All of her safe for work bikini photos were credited as being taken by her father, and all of the not safe for work photos are taken without credit listed, but at night in the hotel room that the two shared. However, this proves nothing, aside from the fact that her father is okay with taking photos of his daughter gripping her chest and posting them online for everyone to see. Which, sure, body positivity is a thing, but this is downright weird to me coming from a father. You and I have now discussed several of the controversies that have circulated in back alley chat rooms and online forums, involving Auris's deplorable behavior towards her mother and other cosplayers, as well as we have gone in depth on all there is to examine regarding the suspect nature of her and her father's relationship. But unfortunately for us, we aren't quite done just yet, as deep within the Google Drive I was provided were documented instances of Auris not only sending not safe for work images to minors for money, something she herself openly confirmed.
I just explained to you, don't put words in my mouth. Those minors I did not do it for money. They said they would give me money, and they wanted me to take pictures for them.
But there was a video of her admitting to having been in love with her brother's friend ever since he was 9, both which led me down a path to an interview with Auress conducted by a creator with whom I had never seen before by the name of Fimyois, and where one may have expected no real merit in terms of dialogue other than Auress being, well, Auress. This interview quickly turns into something just shy of a full-blown confession, filled with contradictions and a genuine admission that she is indeed attracted to minors, making her one of the least documented TikTokers with such an incredibly dangerous attribute that is still actively current on their account, with users thinking little to nothing of her other than she is simply an oddity who raises baby dolls in passing on their feeds. And as you will soon come to find, everything we've already established about Auress is about to be made far worse than we ever could have truly anticipated.
Okay, but you can see why someone would, take
100%.
issue with you. Yeah. You know, it's not just one thing that people take issue with, right?
Yeah, I completely
Admitting to having this
understand.
huge crush on a 14-year-old when you were 20, do you think that it's okay for a 13-year-old girl in Japan to marry a 34-year-old man?
Okay, you're not gonna like the answer, but I'm just speaking from the context of Japanese culture. In Japan, they view 13-year-olds as adults. We view minors in a different way compared to how Japanese people view minors.
Welcome back, and look what I found at Goodwill. I had one of these when I was 5, and I brought it to show and tell, but I did not charge the battery, so I was like, guys, look how cool and awesome my robotic dinosaur is, and it proceeded to do literally nothing. What were we discussing again? Oh, that's right, predatory allegations. Let's get to that. What fun. And forgive me if I sound a little tired, it's pretty late currently, so forgive me there. On February 8th, 2019, creator Fimyois, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that, would host a 5-hour-long interview with Auress where they, as I'm sure you can imagine with such an insanely long duration, discuss a vast variety of subjects and questions from the reborn cosplayer herself. I will state that there are several, I personally felt, deviations in this interview that go in quite a few different directions, but the part that we will be focusing in compounding occurs within a 30-minute time frame, give or take. The topics that are discussed with Auress are as the following. Did she send not safe for work images to minors for money? Auress's controversy involving looting underage characters, followed by her admission of being a predator and her thoughts surrounding acceptable age gaps. Auress's first appearance in this interview begins at the 33 minutes and 59-second mark, where she introduces herself, takes accountability for her prior behaviors, citing how she has changed in recent years, followed by her apologizing about how she had acted publicly towards her former friend Rachel, with whom, if we recall, she viciously berated on her Facebook regarding Rachel's struggles with being neurodivergent.
Hello. Would you like to introduce yourself?
So hello, you might know me as Auress. Actually, I was just watching some of your video. When I say I changed quite a bit, I'm not trying to please you. I agree, I was being a baby when I said all that stuff about my former friend Rachel.
The first several minutes of this interview primarily revolves around Auress's beliefs held towards the LGBTQ+ community, which she states that she has somewhat opened her mind on. But all in all, despite identifying as a member of the community herself, she does not support nor believes in the concepts of gender identity. Though Auress's views towards the community, despite the immense hypocrisy of it, has never really been a secret, as she has often reposted transphobic memes to her page, as well as reposting content that compares the community to that of a certain little German party that held power from the years of 1933 to 1945. She also has made mention on her Twitter that she ended her relationship with her grandmother because the two did not get along, followed by a tweet where she states that her grandmother identifies as a member of the community, and that it was smart of her to hide this side of herself from Auress. I'm unsure as to what Auress would have realistically done here though, had her grandmother openly been herself around her, as that comment sounds like vaguely threatening. She most likely would have just made a Twitter thread rant about her though, in all honesty. Let's be honest. Despite all of these stated beliefs and disavowments, in an incredibly confusing twist, Auress has a video on her main channel defending the trans community, but in the same video, in the comments, someone makes a transphobic, fear-based comment, which she then likes and comments on. But then she goes on to state that she's a trans man. I don't know. I don't understand. What? Up is down, down is up, and my brain is actively short-circuiting. At 41:15, the interviewer Fimyois takes a drastic turn in direction when they abruptly ask Auris, quote, "When was the last time you had sexual interactions with a minor?" Quite the question to just drop on her out of nowhere.
And when was the last time you had sexual interactions with a minor?
Auris answers this question by saying that she has never had such an interaction, to which Fimyois attempts to correct her by presenting a screen-recorded audio reel between Auris and an unknown individual, where she can be heard admitting that she sent not-safe-for-work images to a minor in exchange for money. However, Auris asserts that they did not know the age of the minor in question, despite such information allegedly being readily available in the user's Instagram bio.
I never have ever.
Really? Because, like, and I can pull up the clip if you'd like. You actually admitted to it. If you want, I can play the clip and screen share it.
I actually knew that you were going to bring that up.
Yeah. Well, hold on. I just want to play it just so that everybody, you know, is clear as to which clip I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Hold on. I'm gonna screen share it. We'll watch it together.
I just explained to you, don't put words in my mouth. Those minors I did not do it for money. They said they would give me money, and they wanted me to take pictures for them.
Would you not classify, you know, sending explicit photos to minors as like a sexual interaction? Would you not categorize it that way?
In regards to the actual not safe for work images being sent and who they were being sent to, I was actually put into contact with this individual directly, and that individual's name will remain anonymous. I was able to send this user a message on Discord where I stated that I was actively looking into Auris' story, and was informed that they had been sent the aforementioned not safe for work images, and if they were comfortable with sharing such information. They stated yes, and the following day, they sent me a screen recording of their Instagram DMs that they had taken several years back. For obvious reasons, the video itself will have to remain censored, but the exchanges read as the following. "I'll show you when I get home," says Auris. The Anon replies, "Thank you so much. You're a wonderful cosplayer, by the way." Auris then sends a not safe for work photo of her without underwear on, to which the Anon makes the comment, "Very pretty smiley face," before inquiring about if Auris could send further images of her chest, to which Auris, without hesitation, replies with a photo of her lying in bed without a shirt. The anonymous user in these exchanges was confirmed by my own verification as well, to be 17 at the time that this occurred. Auris attempts to provide an explanation for why she had done this, making mention of a time where the creator Neon Caffeine had confronted them about this very issue. However, Auris starts off by referring to Neon Caffeine as she instead of he, which causes the conversation between Auris and Fimyois to spiral into a 10-minute long back-and-forth argument about using someone's correct pronouns, something Auris adamantly does not wish to oblige by.
So, Neon Caffeine was right when she pointed out I could have, okay, please, I'm respectfully asking you.
No, you're disrespecting him by using the wrong pronouns.
No, I'm not disrespecting anyone.
You're
I
not?
just remember. No, please do not tell me how to speak. And I'm not doing it to be hateful. I just remember her before she transitioned. Okay, please do not tell me how to speak.
Once this argument finally ends, Auris states that her reasoning for sending these images in the first place was pure negligence, and that they agreed with Neon Caffeine, who allegedly told Auris that she should have confirmed the minors' ages, but that she was too blinded by the potential of making a sweet bag to question whether or not she was committing a crime or not.
Yeah, back to the other question. We both know that you did.
Yes, I was about to answer that before you no offense, shoved down my throat, respect pronouns, you must use he, him. But anyway, okay, so Neon Caffeine was right when she pointed out that I should have looked at these people's bios and their ages in their Instagram bios, that they were minors. So I didn't even bother to look. I just blindly believed them when they said to me, "I will pay you money." And that is the truth. You can take it or leave it. You know that I was a retard. I mean, I was the Chris Chan of cosplay for years, which I'm actually very embarrassed about. But I hope you can observe now that
my mannerisms are
you're
different.
completely different now, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
The conversation then transfers over to our next topic of discussion, that being Aures's reasoning for taking not safe for work photos of herself in cosplays that depict minors. Once again, Aures defends herself by explaining that her rationale for creating such controversial imagery was solely due to the fact that it was controversial. She says that back in 2018, she realized that the only way to stay relevant, in her belief, was to make herself a spectacle of negative attention, as it would draw more eyes to her page, therefore keeping her name in circulation, even if it were at the expense of her dignity, citing that she was incredibly immature at the time and how she has now grown as a person.
You have like a really bad track record when it comes to sexualizing characters that are minors. So
I forgot all about that.
Minor characters, as well as real life minors for like in many instances. And you would think that like after one controversy that like you would stop, but it didn't. It seemed, to me at least, like you just kept going. And you know, I'm not sure how I feel about that, you know?
Well, I'm about to answer that. I was so immature at the time, I mean, obviously. And not only that, I believed back in 2018 that the only way to stay relevant online was to be in controversies and gain negative attention. And then as I got more mature, got more wiser, I'm just pointing out that I was very immature at the time, and I also believed that in order to stay relevant online, I would have to keep getting backlash and making controversies, which I'm really doing my best to give up.
So did you send, hold on, are you saying that you sent to minors in order to start controversy?
Fictional characters who are underage, that's what I'm talking about.
Like, that seems like a very strange, like, usually people don't do that to stir controversy.
Okay, but I was very immature at the time, and I don't believe in that anymore.
How old were you at the time? You were like 22?
Yeah, I was 22. I'm 27 now.
I don't want this to come across as an attack on the creator Fimyois, nor as a defense of Aures's actions, but in my personal opinion, this section of the interview felt somewhat in bad faith regarding the original question. The question posed for Aures was about her explanation for taking not safe for work cosplay photos of underage characters, to which Aures makes the defense that she was only doing this as a means to drum up controversy in order to remain relevant, which is met by Fimyois asking Aures if they sent not safe for work photos to minors as a means to start drama, which was not the subject of the original question. It almost feels like, in, again, my opinion, that this is somewhat reaching to see if one could get Aures to slip up, despite her providing her defense to that question, whether how legitimate or not they may be. Both of Aures's reasons here are bad enough as is, so this feels like reaching to possibly get a worse answer than was already provided. Which, mind you, that again, neither of these explanations provided by Aures are justifiable by any stretch of the imagination. However, in examining the authenticity of Aures's rage bait defense, we have to understand that we cannot directly prove nor disprove that this is what she was intending to do. In another video I did about a person in a similar spectrum of behavior, an individual by the name of Anaconda Sen, that user stated that they too were attracted to their father and did horrible things with their dog, to which they stated that their reasoning was rage bait. But upon comparing back and forth statements and interviews, there appeared to be some actual legitimacy to what they were saying that threw into contradiction where the truth began to and where it ended. And something else I found peculiar about Aures's Reddit account, we can find her in a Steven Universe cosplay as Pearl, followed by her immediately stating that she hates Steven Universe because she was triggered by the 1-hour Steven Universe special. Oh, wait a minute, that's not what I'm looking for. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. If we scroll down in her post, we can find 3 instances of Aures actually discussing herself looting underage characters, and the way that they progress in chronological order seems rather contradictory for someone who was attempting to rage bait an entire community. Her first post, dating back to January of 2019, so around the time frame Aures had mentioned, she can be seen stating that she was going to be looting a character by the name of Ochako from My Hero Academia, as well as other anime teens in the future, citing her hatred for teenagers in real life, particularly stating, quote, "Teenagers aren't innocent. which is an insane thing to say when you're rationalizing creating not safe for work content of such characters by drawing from your real-world disdain for actual teens. But what really grabs my attention is the fact that only a few days later, she makes another post saying how she is considering backtracking on creating said not safe for work photos of the My Hero Academia character due to backlash, and that she would instead be doing so to another character from the anime One Piece, who is canonically an adult. Now, for someone who is attempting to double down for rage bait and controversy, it seems rather counterintuitive to create said backlash, only to then 4 days later walk back said rage bait due to fear of said backlash. She even has yet another post following this one, where she says that people had reached out to her begging her not to cosplay as the My Hero Academia character, and so she had ordered a wig to make an adult version of the character as a means to do her first not safe for work cosplay, quote, without any backlash. In my view, this is the antithesis of trying to garner backlash by allegedly trying to directly avoid it. However, it is also entirely possible that Auress is playing 4D chess with all of us. So I do encourage you to form your own non-biased thoughts and opinions regarding this matter. At 56 minutes and 27 seconds of this interview, Himui switches directions and questions Auress about what her thoughts are on LolCon, which leads us to some rather interesting dialogue from Auress, to say the least.
What are your thoughts on LolCon?
Oh, well, okay, you're not gonna like the answer, but I'm just speaking from the context of Japanese culture. So you know that in Japan, they view 13-year-olds as adults. And I know as Americans, we're like, okay, that's really fucked up. But I think we think that way because we view minors in a different way compared to how Japanese people view minors.
Which view do you think is correct? Which view do you think is correct? Because they are mutually exclusive, right?
Okay. Yeah, well, I don't really want to question the Japanese culture at all.
Why?
Because I feel like there's like a gray area. Like, yes, it's wrong, but also they don't see anything wrong with it. And it's part of their culture.
Oh man, off to a really great start, aren't we? Auress gives one of the most dumbest and concerning answers that I heard throughout this entire interview, and it truthfully seems like a glaring self-report, in my opinion. She says that in America, we have been conditioned to believe that Japan's former age of consent of 13 is disgusting and downright deplorable, and that this is a result of our culture as Westerners, and somehow not a basic biological and moral understanding, and that she refuses to condemn the Japanese for what they believe to be is an acceptable age of consent, referring to it as, quote, a gray area.
I feel like there's like a gray area.
You know, despite the endless amounts of evidence that proves that interactions with that barely developed and still developing age demographic causes both physical and psychological damage to minors. But hey, Japan is the most perfect place, baby, with zero flaws, said the Western-obsessed woman who has never been. Kawaii desu yo.
I don't really want to question the Japanese.
Immediately after this response, Himui then asks Auress what she believes to be an acceptable age gap, presenting her with a hypothetical scenario of a 13-year-old girl and a 40-year-old man being together, to which Auress instantly condemns such an age difference. Thank God for that, at least. However, though, when asked about how she felt about the idea of a 14-year-old and a 20-year-old being together, she legitimately has to pause and think about her answer here. That answer eventually being presented as pretty bad.
So, do you think that it's okay for a 13-year-old girl in Japan to marry a 34-year-old man? Do you think that that's okay?
No,
okay, that's
weird.
good news. That's good news. What about like a I don't know, like a 20? What do you? How do you feel about like a 20-year-old and a 14-year-old?
Pretty bad.
No, Auress, it's not pretty bad. It's completely irreparable behavior and genuinely putrid. Why on earth do you honestly need, I mean, I know why. Why on earth do you need time to think about your answer when it comes to the morality of a 14-year-old and a 20-year-old dating? But just as we are trying to scarf down this poop cake of information, before we can even reach for the glass of water to digest it all, we are instantly met with an insane revelation, where Auress just casually admits that she's a predator, and that she has romanticized the idea about marrying her brother's friend that she had known since before he was even 10 years old. Branching off of their conversation about the rights and wrongs of a 14-year-old and 20-year-old dating, Femyoy says that if she remembers correct, that Auris had actually admitted to having a huge crush on someone who was 14 when she was in her 20s, to which Auris simply owns up to this allegation and states that this boy's name was Sam.
Pretty bad, because I do remember there's like a video clip of you saying that when you were 20 you had like this huge crush on someone that was 14, right?
Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about. His name is Sam. He's more of my brother's friend.
If you recall, as has briefly been shown throughout our little analysis today, we briefly watched a clip of Auris being interviewed on a live stream with a user who I've found goes by the Instagram handle HiI'mWonder, where they ask her about not only her attraction to her father, but a rumor of Auris being in love with her brother's 16-year-old friend, to which Auris says yes, but clarifies that she had actually had feelings for this minor since he was only 9 years old.
Is it true you liked your brother's 14-year-old friend?
Yeah. Well, he's 16 now, but I used to have a crush on him, but ever since he was 9, it felt like I loved him because he understood me.
Which just, I mean, it's obviously all bad, but how do you just make that worse? Hey, is it true that you were in love with a 16-year-old? Well, hold on there, pal. I've actually been in love with them since they were 9. What the fuck? Now, while I haven't been able to locate the entirety of this interview, I did find a post from this user confirming that they did in fact conduct an interview with Auris quite some time ago. I've reached out to this user, but haven't heard anything back, so in a non-harassment manner, if anyone actually knows who this individual is, I'd love to find a way to get in contact with them to see if they potentially still have this live stream archived somewhere, as I am incredibly curious to know everything that was said during it. But with that said, Femyoy is referencing this section of the interview from I Want Some More when they confront Auris about such an allegation. And honestly, Auris's response here genuinely just leaves me baffled of her severe lack of social awareness, which perhaps one might argue that is a rather ableist comment of me given the fact that she is neurodivergent, but I still think it's a fair assessment to make regardless. As stated prior, Auris promptly elaborates that this minor, who is now currently over the age of 18, was named Sam, a close friend of Auris's brother Casey, clarifying that she was really immature at the time, which is not nor will ever be an excuse for having romantic feelings for a 9-year-old all the way up until they are 18 years old. That's just absolutely disgusting. As I was recording this, I was also made aware that Auris has several mentions of her friend over on her Twitter account that read as the following. Also, Auris states in these tweets that Sam is 12, but that simply just means that time has passed from when she had first met him. Would it sound disgusting if I said that I'm feeling romance for this 12-year-old friend of mine, that I want relations? Not that I would have relations. I know better to not have relations with him because I know that's probably illegal, but that's how I feel right now. Wanting relations. Even if me and my friend are only 6 years apart, I'm starting to want romance with him. I'm trying to say that I feel romantically in love with my 12-year-old friend Sam. I would probably sound disgusting if I said I wanted relations. But the problem here, Auris, is that you're literally saying that you are wanting to have intimate relations with a minor, and that the only thing preventing you from doing so is the fact that it's, quote, probably illegal. Also, to put in perspective that age gap, Auris states that they are 6 years apart and that Sam was 12 at the time, meaning Auris was 18 years old wanting to be with a 12-year-old. That is beyond unacceptable. You have graduated high school while they have barely entered the 8th grade. To better explain her interest towards this minor, and I suppose she thought that this would make for an "oh, that makes total complete sense" kind of moment, Auris describes a time when she was a child and her mother had shown her an old Western movie from the 1990s called Legends of the Fall. She states how the premise of this movie follows the main character, a Western cowboy, who meets a Native American girl at a young age, falls in love with her, and once she fully grows up, he then marries said girl. Which, that just sounds like a really weird, creepy plot, but no point in getting to the semantics there. It is this exact premise that Auris states she felt was akin to her interest towards her brother's friend Sam. However, she states that once he had finally turned 18, she realized this dream of hers could be no more, not because she recognized how predatory and disturbing it was, but because Sam was not interested in women.
Remember when I said I was really immature at the time? Well, I was trying to do this analogy where, okay, so when I can't remember how young I was, but I was maybe in my late teens, and my mom showed me this movie called The Legend of the Fall. And there's this Native American girl who starts out as a young girl, and I think Brad Pitt's character ends up marrying her as she gets older and by the time she's an adult. So I was using that as an analogy because I'm like not thinking about how their takeaway would be if I said that. And I was just thinking to myself, well, what if by the time Sam, that's his name, would get older and become an adult, what if we were to get married? Which is not the case, by the way, because it turns out he's gay. He's not attracted to me, and it doesn't matter now because I actually have a boyfriend who lives in Florida.
Okay, so let's expand upon what I believe she's trying to say here, because this is what I'm hearing and maybe you disagree, which by all means let me know down below if you think otherwise. Aures's sole reason for not pursuing this minor after they had reached the legal age was just because Sam was not into her. She isn't saying that she outgrew her immaturity and realized how unacceptable it is to have developed feelings for a literal child, therefore resulting in her seeking out immediate psychiatric help. She's just saying that the opportunity had never presented itself. And can we also, again, talk about how insane it is to say that when you met a 9-year-old, you felt like they saw you in a way that you had never been seen before, and felt that they truly understood you?
It felt like I loved him because he understood me.
That's a second grader she's talking about, by the way. The remainder of this interview consists primarily of other creators making appearances and giving advice to Auris about how to better navigate whatever issues they may be experiencing and how to steer clear of controversy in the future. If you wish to watch the entirety of this interview, by all means feel free to do so. But for the sake of keeping everything tightly knit and compact for information purposes, we will not be examining this section, as I feel it would just take far too long, and we already have the crux of our talking points laid out before us. All in all, after everything you and I have discussed, I am left confused and with mixed emotions, with certainty towards how I feel regarding her interactions with minors. I want to recognize, while not excusable and bridging on the side of redundancy at this point, Auris does claim to be on the spectrum, which has affected her social and developmental skills since she was young. She is not a person without cognitive struggle in her life, and in those regards, I do hold sympathy, not just for her, but for anyone else who faces such challenges. She genuinely does, in my personal opinion, strike me as a person who seems incredibly oblivious to the contradictions and hypocrisies of her own actions, as well as the brazen nature of her verbal attacks online. However, no doubt, this could be me speaking with an incredibly biased lens towards those with mental struggles. That being said, countless other people walk the exact same path that she does, equally dealt an unfair hand in life, and those people do not go out and attack communities and minorities, berating them for the color of their skin, orientation, or physical appearances. It's inexcusable no matter the scenario, and she's been on the internet long enough to know exactly what she's doing and how it affects others, especially when she has made mention of how when people attack her for things such as her weight, that it makes her feel terrible about herself, and that such insults are a far cry from genuine criticism. Yet that doesn't stop her from calling people racial slurs and body shaming other cosplayers unprovoked, as a means to promote her own cosplays as being far more superior than others. It's quite frankly just really pathetic and needlessly judgmental. As to her admission of predatory interest and behaviors, what can we say that isn't already painfully obvious? Auris is, by her own wording, attracted to minors. Yet here she is, still actively posting to her Reborn Mom of Mini TikTok page, remaining completely undetected as both a creator and as someone who frequents anime conventions, many of which have numerous minors in attendance. I will say, do I believe that Auris is directly reaching out to minors online and attempting to solicit images and inappropriate interactions with them? To my knowledge, no. There has only been one direct instance of Auris sending not safe for work images to a minor, which was obviously the occurrence where she claimed she did so for money. However, and this is in no way a defense of such gross negligence, I did personally speak to the two individuals who were responsible for baiting Auris into committing such an act, and neither of them can recall whether or not Auris was made aware of their ages or not, because despite this information allegedly being readily available in their bios, they did not at any point inform Auris themselves that they were in fact underage. This does not excuse her behavior by any means, but when fitting the action with the crime, this would strike me from the information that was provided as a case of harmful negligence involving minors, rather than an instance of direct predatory intent. However, despite this, it doesn't change the fact that this follows her online track record, and who's to say that someone else, despite my strongest condemnation of doing so, won't also attempt to woo her over with promises of money, as a means of getting her to send further not safe for work images to minors. And when paired with everything she has stated prior, such as her refusal to condemn Japan's former age of consent of 13, needing time to think of if 20 and 14 was an acceptable age gap, hatred towards teenagers, and her stated belief that they hold no innocence, alongside her admission of being in love with her brother's underage friend for over 10 years, I suppose Auris would find herself in a bit of a boy who cried wolf scenario when pleading ignorance towards the user she sent not safe for work photos to's age, despite allegedly such information being readily available in the user's Instagram bio. Despite her continued active appearance through her almost daily uploads to her main TikTok account, Auris remains, for the most part, quiet and out of the public eye, silently maintaining her role as a mother to her reborn dolls and progressing her journey through cosplay, making the claim that she has changed as a person and has long since seen the errors of her ways. Whether you believe that to be the case or not is entirely up for you to decide. For now, the story of Auris may be dormant for the time being, but her legacy, and those who walk a similar path to that of hers throughout the feeds of millions, is far from over. And where one nightmare ends, another is soon to begin, as we have seen time and time again from the continual epidemic that are the creeps and degenerates that wreak absolute havoc on the internet year after year. It is not a matter of if another online menace is to eventually be outed, but rather when. And so, for the time being, all we can do is take the stories of those like Auris's as a precautionary tale to take against the countless monsters hidden away in the back alleys of online spaces, disguised in the crowds of the endless friendly faces that we scroll past in our feeds daily, when we are harmlessly browsing the internet as a light-hearted escape from the outside world. If you're still actively hearing my voice, I'd like to take a moment to say thank you for making it all the way through to the end of today's video. I know it sounds incredibly sarcastic, but you making it all the way through to the end genuinely does help me out like a lot. And admittedly, I feel a little bit guilty because of all the additional nightmare fuel I've provided you for whenever you're trying to go Betty by. Let us not forget Father Alistair. But I hope it was entertaining nonetheless. If you enjoyed today's video, it would be greatly appreciated if you consider dropping a like and subscribe down below with the bell notification on, as well as a comment sharing your profound thoughts, as it helps me grow as a channel and, quite frankly, feels really cool and sportive. That's our secret though. Thanks for that in advance if you do decide you want to stick around. If you'd like to help support me and what we do here on the channel, feel free to consider checking out my Patreon, which can also be found down below in the description, or becoming a channel member. It is a super helpful way to support the channel in between uploads, as these do take quite a bit of time to make, but it isn't required by any means. There will be a dedicated section to those kind individuals here in just a moment. If you'd like to follow me on other platforms to help further boost my ego, feel free to follow the links in the description to my Instagram, as well as my Twitch, as it is a great way to reach out and connect if you're feeling like you just want to say hey, or to send particularly thought-provoking haikus. Or, I don't know, whatever you're really feeling, I suppose. Get creative. Sorry, I didn't mean to point at you in the camera like that. Well, I must say, it has been quite the time. We laughed, we cried, we probably cried some more. We helped a little old lady cross traffic and we felt really good about ourselves for doing so. Okay, I made that last part up, but I'm glad you and I had this opportunity to spend some time together throughout this journey nonetheless. Once more, my name is Wonder, and again, it was absolutely phenomenal to have you here today. I've got to get back to crawling around in the sewers of the internet so I can make some more deep dives for you. So until next time, be safe. Get some sleep at a reasonable hour because Lord knows one of us needs to. And I'll be seeing you again, my friend, very soon. Take care and farewell. If you're still here, I'd like to take a moment to express my gratitude to my kind-hearted supporters over on Patreon. I truly am forever grateful for your generosity. I know times are rather tough for a lot of people right now, so for you to support me in such a way with everything going on in the lives of your own, I really can't find proper words other than thank you. I'd also like to give another warm thank you to the high-tier community members such as Zednu, Guillotine Goblin Peasant, Ellis Hurd, and Goth Barbie 3000. And an extra special thank you to Carson, Hatter, Jay, and Alice Beth for their highest tier subscription support. You all have my expressive gratitude. Thank you. Be well, stay safe, and good night.